We're going to start on chapter 1, and it's called Connecting the Dots Logo Tour. And this is the solution file and what your end result will look like. And I recommend downloading it and have it here along with your data file. That way you can go back and forth and make sure that you're doing it properly. I'm going to step you through this process. The first thing we're going to do is go over to the data file. But before we even start there, I want to make sure that your preferences is set up properly. So make sure that you're on Essentials Classic. And this way you'll have your layers panel and your swatches panel and the panels you'll be needing for this exercise. And then you can always go to Preferences, and we're going to go to Preferences in General. Look at the units and make sure it's set up on points, because we're going to be working on a stroke, but we're going to make sure it's set up on points. And then click on Type and make sure that this is unchecked where it says Fill New Type Objects with Placeholder Text. If that's unchecked, and if it's not, uncheck it, of course, and then just press OK. So these are the preferences you want to make sure your computer is set up with. Now, the next thing we're going to do is to start off in the book, and we're going to start off on page 1, where we already have the document set up. And when you go to page 5, step 3, it says view the actual size of the document in your window, and this is the actual size. So you click here on view and click on actual size, and we're going to actually bring in a template which we can actually trace this different shapes and items that you need for this document. So in order to do that, we have to click on the napkin sketch here and click this button. And when you go in to do file place, if the file place is not, if it's grayed out and this here is locked, you won't be able to do a file place. See, it's grayed out. So make sure it's unlocked. And then we're going to do file place. And the document we're going to place here is this here. When you click on it, you'll see it's a sketch of the actual document. And we're going to sketch all the shapes. And when we place it, I'm going to place it in the document. Now, it's there. And using your selection tool, so I'm going to view this here where I fit the artboard in the window and I can actually see it, so I can resize it. And you use your selection tool to make sure that's, activated so that you can resize it to the width of your window. And I'm just going to make sure it's done properly, and it is. So everything is resized to the window, as you can see. And now I'm going to view it back in the actual size. So here's my document, and let's do fit in the artboard window instead. Now it's there. So the instruction says once I place my document into the window, then what I want to do is I'm going to click on the blank box to the left of the layer named napkin sketch to lock that layer. So then we're going to lock it back so that way it's set in place. And now we're going to save the document under our name. So you simply do File, Save As, and you type your name in the front of the document, first and last name, and then just save it. I'm doing a replace because I've done this. And then you just click OK. Okay, so now the first step is we're going to draw the sky guide. And if you look here, the sky guide is the lavender one right there. So I'm going to have to click on the sky guide to make it visible. Now you see the little square. And in order to draw the sky guide, I have to click on Draw Sky. So this is your layers panel. So when you work with each layer, whether it's the tulip, the leaf, or the stem right here, you're going to have two items that you're going to be working with. One is your guide, and one is allowing you to draw on that guide. So what I need to do is get the rectangle tool. So if I click here, that's the rectangle tool. But if by chance you see another tool over there under the type tool, then you have to click that little arrow to get to the rectangle tool. So once I click the rectangle tool, but before I do that, we have to deal with the color, right? So I have to make it lavender. So once I click on lavender, I want to make sure that my fill is in the right place. So now you see lavender, and the stroke should be on none, which it is. Now I'm going to collapse that, and I'm on my rectangle. So when I draw it the same size, it's a fill of my sky guide. Click over and you can see the squares there. So what I want to do now is the instructions is going to tell me once I draw that I'm going to have to click and lock that and open it, and so I take it off. So when you click these, you actually making it not where it's not visible anymore, because now that was one. So what is the second actual shape I have to draw? I've done the draw the sky, so now I'm working on page 8 where I'm drawing the sun, and this here is your sun right here. So the first thing I need to do is go to my sun guide and make it visible, right? So now I can see it, and click on the draw sun, right? And that shape is under my rectangle tool that I have to work with, and it's the star tool. Now, the color is no longer lavender. I need to go and make it, and this is on top of the none, the actual fill, so that's great. So I'm just going to make it white because my sun is white, and that's none, so that's good. And then I click in the middle here, and if you're on a Windows system, you really need to hold down the Alt key and click, and then you get this little window. And if you look in your textbook, it tells you what dimensions your star needs to be. So in the radius 1, I need to make that 1.25. I'm going to do that right now. And then in radius 2, your should be set to 0.65. And for the points, I need 15 points. So I'm just going to press my up arrow until I get to 15 points. And I'm just going to let you know, once it draws that shape for you here, it's not going to be exact, but it's going to be close enough, and that's fine. Now, what I need to do is actually click on my selection tool, because now I need to resize this. And one of the things you got to be careful of, don't worry about it's not exact. But it's just the guide for where your star is. Now, when you look here, you see these points? They're not overlapping my tulip, and I don't want to do that. So this one actually is. So I'm going to kind of bring it in over here because I don't want it to overlap on my tulip shape. And I can bring this down. So now it's not overlapping my tulip shape. And if I want to bring this up a little bit, I can. And that's what you want to be conscious of, that it does not overlap the tulip shape. So now what I need to do is, that's done. So I'm going to make my sun guide, take it off, and then lock this in place. And now I have my sun guide, and I'm going to make it invisible. So now that one's done. That's in place. Now we got to draw the grass. Now let's look at the grass. If I look over here, this is your grass right here, and it's not going to be exact again, but the color of the grass is green, as we've seen. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make that darker green. And as you can see, my fill changed. So in order to draw the grass, if we go back to page 9 under drawing the grass, and I've done the fill color, so what I need to do is click on the leftmost column next to the grass guide. So I'm going to bring that in, and my grass guide is here, right? So I have to click here to bring it up. So I have some numbers there, and I'm drawing the grass, so I have to click on that. And in order to draw this grass, I need my pen tool. So again, if your pen tool is not active and you see one of these, you make sure you click there to bring your pen tool. Now, one thing about your pen tool is you got to be very careful when clicking it, because now you're drawing. So I'm going to go in the middle of 1, click, go to 2, and you can see this here faint line, but it's going to start showing you green. Go to 3. Once I go to 4, and now this shape is oval. One of the things you learned in one of the other chapters of InDesign was when you click here to make that oval shape, I have to click and hold it down and draw it. And if you look, you'll see the faint line. It may not be exact, but I'm going to go over to about here. Now see, I needed to come up a little bit more. So I'm going to undo that and I'm going to do it again. And you could do the same thing. So this time I'm going to click it and I'm going to go a little further out, because the further out I go, the closer it gets to that line. So that's close enough. And then when I click this one, I have to go down. So as I go down, it's going to bring my shape up. Well, I went down too far. So let's do it again. And I'm going to click it. And this time, and there you go. So my shape is done. So that's great. So that's close enough. And now be careful not to click, because what you're going to do is click your deselection tool here. That way you're on the pen tool. You can't click anything else with the pen tool and make any more colored shapes. So what I'm going to do now is bring the grass guide, click on it, takes the numbers off, click on this here, and then lock my draw grass in shape. In place. So that's done. So the next step is to draw the actual tulips. I'm pretty sure that's what we're doing next. And if you go down, well, the flowers, and it's under drawing flowers on page 10. So you want to unhide the tulips guide. So when you unhide the tulips guide, I just have to find it's right here, click over here, and it brings the numbers up again. But if I'm drawing, I need to click on the draw. So I can't draw unless I click on draw, and there you go again. Well, what color is the tulip? So let's go here, and that's a purple color. So that's fine, and the stroke is set to none. So what do I draw with? I draw with the pen tool. So again, I'm going to click. And then I'm going to start with number 1. So you click 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. It's coming into shape. But the 5 didn't come out right. Why? Because when I clicked on 5, remember, we have to go straight to make that slant. Now we're doing something. 6, 7, and 8. And there you go. Now, don't click anywhere else because we got this pen, and just go to select. So that takes the pen tool, makes it deactivated. And now what we're going to do, it's already in selection. So rather than do this all over again for this tulip, I'm just going to, while it's selected, say copy. And then I'm going to simply say paste. And now I made another one. Undo. Let's try it again. Is it selected? Yes. Let's make sure it's selected. Copy and paste. And there it is. So now that I have another one, I can just draw, take this one and resize it to the size about this. It's not going to be exactly the same shape, but it gives you a guide. That's all it is a guide to drawing these shapes. So now I'm going to bring that down. So these two are done. So what do I want to do? I want to make them invisible, and I'm on the stem, sorry about that. And this is Tulips Guide, take that off. So it's done. Okay, now we're going to look at the clock here. It's 13 minutes. This video only lasts for 15 minutes. So the next thing you're going to be working with is this part, the stems, and then the flowers. So part 2 is going to be on the next video. And once we finish this, the last part will be to write the name down here. So we're good to go. So I'm going to stop this video, and part 2 is going to be the stems and the flowers. Okay, so stay tuned for part 2.